Barack Obama asked US intelligence to carry out a full investigation concerning this year's presidential elections. According to US intelligence sources, hacker attacks were commissioned by Russia to interfere the process of the election campaign in order to tip the scales in Trump's favor. My guest here in the studio tonight is Arthur Keleti, president of the Voluntary Cyber Defense Collaboration. Welcome.
Good evening.
Now, the original news said that this high-ranking intelligence officer told Reuters that intel agencies reached a conclusion with great confidence, that is, that the Russians did interfere the American electoral campaign via hacker attacks to harm Hillary Clinton. What do you think about these allegations?
I think this is an absolutely possible scenario, also in a view of the fact that intel agencies have been monitoring the activities of this hacker group for a long time, which has probably executed this attack or performed these leaks.
Is this a group? Do we know this?
Yes, this is probably the group called by the codename APT-28 in the industry. This is a group that is linked to Russian military intelligence and has been active since the mid-2000s. Their methods are fairly easy to recognize, and these could be identified when the attack against the DNC system were analyzed by the expert colleagues.
What are these methods? How can one interfere, not into the election itself, as news says, but into the campaign? Or was it concerned too?
It is yet to be found out whether the election itself was directly interfered or not, if they wanted to or not. The investigation now focuses on the campaign only. What actually happened was that the DNC servers, that is, the systems of the Democratic Party, were infected, or more precisely, they penetrated the system and extracted information from there.
What kind of information was this? Just to put it in layman's terms, how can they harm with this? What do they do with it?
Well, of course, these were subsequently leaked to multiple directions. WikiLeaks also started leaking this information. These were correspondences concerning Hillary Clinton's campaign. A hacker by the nickname Guccifer has also started leaking things. For a long time, the industry thought that this was not an action by Russia, but that of a solitary Romanian hacker.
So the leaks, what the public has heard in the campaign about Clinton, could these be behind it?
Yes, absolutely. These things came from these sources, this is for sure. Although WikiLeaks leader Assange said that he had received nothing from the Russians. I think there's a serious problem here. Even if this investigation is concluded, the intel services cannot authentically prove that the Russian intervention took place.
Why can't they? Moscow will obviously deny. Trump will also say it's ridiculous. It is nonsense.
They cannot, because it is very hard to find irrefutable proofs of kind of attacks. Just to give you an example, the fact that these were indeed Russians, we can know from the fact that they were using tools that contain mostly Russian text in them.
Couldn't anybody else do this to mislead people, making it useless as a proof?
That is exactly the point. Also, these malicious codes were made on computers that were used in Russian daytime. This is also easy to fix. Today, you can set a computer up to speak Russian and show Moscow time. So the problem is that if these investigations end, it will still be impossible to confidently state whether it is about Russia or not.
So what can they do then? Because government officials were already talking about this in October, that the systems of the Democrats were hacked by the Russian leadership, or at least by groups sponsored by them. Is there no appropriate protection against this? Can the US electoral campaign be tampered with?
Well, it seems that it can, and not only with this, but with a lot of other things too. The point here is, yes, the intelligence was aware of this already, and at least after, I think around April, May, an investigation was started, and it became clear that hackers have been inside the systems for at least a year. And then the possibility of this having an effect on the elections has emerged. Politicians haven't dwelled deeper into this issue because they thought that it will have a much bigger impact in the elections if they publish all the information they have, as opposed to waiting until the investigation ends and do something afterwards. But there's also another political thread we have to deal with, and it is the fact that intelligence services were considerably kept back in Obama's government time. Their primary goal was to protect privacy of users and American citizens. So I would be surprised if the findings that the investigations will present at the end would show that the Russians' interference is evidently decisive. I think they're going for is a kind of, well, something did happen here, but it is not severe outcome.
So nothing useful really. If what you're saying is true, then election campaigns of any country can be interfered to. As we know, Angela Merkel was talking about this in November, saying that Germany might suffer Russian IT attacks in the 2017 election campaign.
In fact, this has already happened in England before the recent elections at the end of 2015. There were anonymous signs of attempts by the same team APT28 attacking British government systems. Back then, the British were able to fight this off, as they claimed, but it also wasn't found out until recently. Even Hungary was already attacked by this team several years before.
What did they want?
The only thing we know about it so far is that probably they would have liked to leak information from government systems. Whether they eventually managed to do that, we don't know, but there certainly was an attempt. As a matter of fact, there could have been several of them since then.
Going back for a moment to Germany now, they fear other things too, that these hackers linked to Russian intel services were the penetrators of attacks against various parties of the Bundestag committed in the summer. They are afraid confidential documents will get leaked. Is this probable? Could this have happened this summer?
It is 100% sure. As I said, this group is active since the mid-2000s and specialized mainly against East European targets. And yes, they collect this information and the intelligence will use them.
One sentence yet. We have 30 seconds left. What can we do? How can we protect ourselves?
Well, this is a tough one. One thing is sure, a number of sensors must be put in place to perceive these attacks, and we must try to close them out of the system before they are able to obtain critical information. But these technologies are so advanced and professional that a government, including Hungary, has to get itself together very seriously if they want to fight against these kind of advanced threats.
Thank you for being here and sharing this with us.
My pleasure.
Ez volt már a Magyarország élőben, én kollégáim nevében is köszönöm figyelmüket. Holnap Balázs várja majd önöket ugyanebben az időpontban. Viszontlátásra!